Alright, everyone, welcome back to another Watch and Talk here, Automotive Anatomy. Thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your most valuable asset, which is time, to either listen, to watch, to just have me in the background, or even to take 2 seconds to open the video, like it or dislike it, and then go about your way. I definitely appreciate your time. As we continue to grow on this channel, which is still continuing to provide cool stories for all of you guys, experiences for me, friendships, connections. So I just want to say thank you. I know I say it, but I don't say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So today's topic discussion that I wanted to chat is, I feel that a lot of people that complain have not been through some type of major challenge in their life, some type of adversity. So as I'm walking with my wife in her daily walks, she mentioned she needed to do something with her passport. She ended up calling just to ask for more questions. And she's like, one of the gentlemen that helped me clearly had a speech impairment, a little bit of stuttering, a little bit of, not pronouncing the words the best way. And she's like, he took the time to read all the same directions that I had already, read myself, but I didn't want to cut him off. And as she was telling me that, I got angry. I was like, when she was done, I was like, so what the F is up with people that complain every day? And she's like, I know. I'm like, what in the world is up with people that wake up and the very first thing they want to do is complain about X, Y, and Z? I think what we fail to see is that some people out there really have gone through challenges, and I can't imagine having either a speech impairment or a stuttering problem, and having to, depend on my work depends on me having to speak on the phone. It'd be very, very difficult. And not that he or she or they can't do the job because of the stuttering or whatever. I'm not worried about those individuals. I feel like those individuals are putting in the work. They're the ones who are like, I don't have an impairment, or I don't have a speech challenge. Like, they will be the first ones to tell you, like, maybe it takes me a little longer to communicate, but I don't have an impairment. Like very looking positive. What I worry about is those individuals who, again, wake up in the wrong side of the bed, seems like every day, and they were to make a comment to this individual who's helping them through the phone. And you don't have to be rude. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to say bad words to make somebody feel, bad. Something along the lines of, hey man, can you transfer me to somebody that can help me faster? Just a comment like that. That obviously, to an individual who has a stuttering problem, it can affect the person. So I invite you guys to be patient. Next time you're at a grocery store, next time you're, at a red light, and the person in front of you is not moving as fast as they should, for many reasons. One, road rage is real. I don't want you guys to be in a situation where, they can be danger to you. Number two, we don't know what's going on in people's lives. I think that we lack that sense of compassion. I feel that throughout my entire education, when I was a student, in K through 12 setting, and then after, I was always that kid that always felt the need to stand up for others. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest with you guys. But I always felt the need that no one should be rude to somebody just based on the way they look, the way they speak, the way, they walk, whatever. So I've carried that on even till now. Like, I try to make the best job at, obviously you can see the shampoo fell and it got stuck there. I try to always be the most positive individual, and by doing that, I feel that I can provide a value to other people of positivity. And obviously it's not every day that you feel like things are going right, especially if you're actually going through some challenge. Um, I discussed this with my mom. I had this chat, and my mom watches the channel. So hi, mom. I had a discussion with her maybe like I don't know 4 months ago, and we were discussing gas prices. And she's like, "Well, you understand that some people don't make as much money, and therefore they're having challenges paying for gas and groceries. It's not as butterflies and rainbows like you think it is out there." And I said, "Look, I agree, but I disagree." And she was like, "Well, why?" And so I was like, "I think that a lot of us, um, we and I include myself, we spend money on things that are just not a necessity. I go and spend $8, in coffee, and don't even blink. $6-7 on coffee, and then all of a sudden, as soon as I see a 6 or a 7 on the pump, I get freaked out. But when you think about it, it's, if I'm spending $7 on a coffee, 10 of those, that's $70. That's one full, tank of gas. So what I'm trying to get at is the fact that a lot of us are, angry or upset or whatever the case may be, but we also have a good lifestyle. We have a lot of different things that we should be thankful for. And I think we forget that. I've been there. I definitely forget it. I forget that there's people with actual challenges. And so I gotta kind of take a step back and think, okay, cool, yeah, like in this case, my mom was right. There's some people that are not making as much money that are really, really struggling, and or they work far, and so gas starts adding up. Now that I have a commute, now I feel like I'm pumping gas every fifth day and fourth day, as opposed to before I was pumping gas every 2 weeks. So there's definitely and that's kind of the conversation I'm having with myself. Like, I've never struggled. I really haven't struggled. Like, obviously, if I was to if I could magically show you guys exactly where I grew up and the conditions that we grew up, I think 70 to 80% of you guys would be like, "No, dude, you were you guys were definitely broke." But I never felt broke. I never felt like we were poor. We always had our necessities. We always had food. We always had a shelter. We always had love. So yeah, financially, maybe we didn't have the fancy toys. Maybe that's why to this day I'm always like, budgeting. I'm always thinking about, how to prepare myself to be in an okay situation, how to not depend on, living on paycheck to paycheck. I think growing up and seeing the challenges that, my mom or my grandma kind of faced, where it was I guess significant for me enough to always appreciate what we do have, because I think that's something that we always had a reminder, from just our family members. They would always say, hey, as long as you're healthy, sure, you're not going to be able to afford everything or your material things or whatever, but if you have your health, that's the most important thing. And a lot of us, we say that, but we don't really live it, and again, I'll be the first one. I'm raising my hand. I'm the first one to admit it. We take a lot of things for granted. Every morning that we all walk out, or even if you walk, you work from home, any time that we walk out of the house, no one guarantees you they're going to be back. And so, take 2 seconds to, breathe and tell your loved ones that you loved one, and so just be patient with whatever, whatever goes on in your life. One of the podcasts was mentioning a couple key things that I've been writing down, and it's kind of in the back of my head. One of them was, don't make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. And it's true. I've been there where I'm like, man, we had a situation happen recently, and I talked it over with my wife, and she was like, maybe you should hold off. Don't say anything. Just stay quiet. I was like, okay, you're right. You're smarter than I am. And sure enough, I stood quiet, and then my feelings, they passed. The situation got better, and I don't think that what I would have said would have helped the situation. I think it would have made it worse in the long term. So that was like a key moment. I was like, man, it's so true. Do not make permanent, decisions. Look at that. Just love it. Don't make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. And I think that's super important for all of us. And so that goes back to what I was saying about if you happen to get that individual who's stuttering on the phone and is providing you customer service. Let's be honest, most of the time we call customer service is because we're angry or we want something done right away, or we just we're upset in the moment. It's easy to just be rude to somebody else. It's easy to just share or negativity or whatever we're feeling and project it onto other people. But the reality is that we don't know what other people are going through. So a little bit of patience and compassion, I think, goes a long way, a long, long way. And again, I'm talking to myself in all these Washington talks, because I truly believe that there's days that we wake up and we just really take for granted the privileges that we have. And let's be honest, if I have the privilege to wash my car and record myself, and you have the privilege to watch me wash my car and record myself, I think let's agree to disagree that we're both very privileged, to some extent. Now, obviously, you may be going through some very challenging times, but at the end of the day, there's always something positive to look at. There's always something, that we can kind of focus on and say, okay, how can we find a solution to this? That's always going to be my goal, to find a solution to whatever challenge you may be going through. So, I don't know. It just impacted me. So that was one of the different things that the podcast was mentioning about making, key decisions and key times. Another one that they mentioned was when you feel like you want to say something to somebody or something, think about it before you speak, and really mean what you say, because when you say, you have to mean it. There's no takes back, take backs. There's no backsies. And that's the reality. There's none of that. I can't say something in the moment, be rude about it, and then expect you to be okay and forget it. It just doesn't happen that way. And it's important for me to say it, because I've made a lot of mistakes where, either with my family or with friends, I say something and then later on I think about it, I'm like, man, that was actually pretty rude. That came from a place of trying to be disrespectful towards it, or like hurt their feelings, as opposed to like in a jokingly manner. Now, my buddy once said, every joke, has a little bit of truth in it. So be careful with who jokes with you, how you joke with them. And it's true. It's true. I think that my grandma had this saying that it said, if you want to keep a friendship, don't be too close to them. And obviously at the time I didn't understand. I was young, and I was like, what? Like, if you're trying to be friends, you're supposed to be close. And so her whole idea was like, look, and if you want to have a long-term friendship, a true friendship, you don't get too personal with them. You don't get in their business. You don't comment every little thing that's going on in their life. Like, you have to have some space, because that way you guys don't become too friendly, that then later on you overstep your boundaries and you're disrespectful, or they take it as disrespect that you're commenting on some of their life situations. Now as an adult, I see it. It's like, oh, yep, it's true. If I want to maintain a big, a meaningful long-term relationship, you have to not be so close of friends that you feel that, you can chime in even when your opinion was not asked. So all these lessons, it's crazy. It's all these lessons that, people in your life teach you, but you don't get it at that moment. And so I think that that's our responsibility as adults to share this with other people, share it with our loved ones, share it with our younger ones. They're not going to get it out in that moment probably, but down the road, all these lessons come back and you're like, oh, that's right. Compassion. Oh, that's right. See it from different point of view. Don't chime in too much into other people's business because you don't know how they're feeling that day. Maybe they're your best friend, but in that moment they just don't want to hear how I told you so. It's like it's not helping. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think about the whole situation with somebody who has some type of speech challenge, impairment, whatever you want to call it, and being customer service on the phone. Like that to me, man, it takes a great skill to say I'm gonna pick up the phone and be dealing with negative people or angry people, and I'm gonna try to provide the best customer service. And I was telling my wife, I was like, you know what, I feel that we see this in so many different areas. I mentioned in the Watch and Talks way before, I love the show What Would You Do. I don't think they make videos anymore, but I still on YouTube I always watch What Would You Do, and they're social experiments, and they'll put somebody, an actor, in a challenging situation, and they kind of just test the people out to see how they act. One of them, it's like having an individual with some type of autism, different levels in the spectrum of autism, and at a grocery store, and they're helping bag the items, and the other actors will say, man, I got the slow lane, or they just start making comments just to provoke anybody who's there and to see who would actually speak up. And I always get teary with those shows because I'm like, man, like I personally don't know anybody in my family that has that type of challenge. But if I did, like, to hear somebody ever to make that comment, man, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I think I would have to remind myself, do not make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. And it's crazy because I see this in so many different just conversations. I had a chat with Enrique Kike. You guys are going to see his interview on his beautiful Civic Coupe, and he shared something with me that was very personal, and it helped me understand why it's important to be patient. It's important to not react, to not have to be quote unquote defensive, or try to prove yourself that you have strength, or that you can fight, or you can do something like that. And so it just goes back, this whole entire week I've been having this conversation with myself about being patient, about being kind to others. It goes a long way. And so on these shows, on What Would You Do, they always have a whole bunch of different type of examples and scenarios. And I love this show because it makes me realize that my way of thinking is not always going to be 100%, and that I need to be okay with somebody who has different mentality, who has different upbringings. It's okay. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It just means that we grew up differently. And so if we fail to see that, well, how are we ever going to have a good relationship as a society, as a community? And so I don't know. I got really worked up when she shared that. And obviously my wife was, very patient. She was like, thank you so much. And so I believe she was going to go out of her way to leave a positive review. I think she was going to send an email to somebody, say, hey, so-and-so helped me. Very good, very professional. Definitely appreciate it. Because let's be honest, most of us don't ever take the time to share a good review. Like, we're always quick to say, oh, the customer service sucked. Like, more negativity on top of that, because again, we're operating on some type of feeling, and so we're more likely to operate on some type of negative feeling than a positive one. So it just goes without saying that there's a lot more positivity out there than there is negativity, but the negative thing, will always, for the most part, shadow what we do. And we've seen it in many different things. Somebody can be there was this example. I don't know how true it was because I wasn't there, but it's one of those things that come up on my feed, and they were like, Albert Einstein was teaching his class, and so he started doing the multiplications of 9. So he did 9 times 1, 9, 9 times 2, 18, 9 times 3, 27, whatever, up to 9 times 10. And 9 times 10, he, instead of putting 90, he put 91. Again, I don't know how true this story is, but I really like the point. So apparently, the class started laughing, like, how can you make such a rookie mistake, especially, being Albert Einstein or whatever. And so, he turns to the class and says, notice how I got the first 9 multiplications right, but you guys just laughed and focused on the one that I got wrong. Well, again, I don't know if that story is true, but it's so true. We tend to forget when we get good customer service. We tend to forget when, we have a positive interaction with somebody, when things did go our way. There's times where I'm like, man, like, I'm running late, let's say, when I get all green lights. Like, I don't complain about it, I'm like, but I should be grateful. Like, oh, I'm glad I got the green lights. Or there's times that, for instance, with the car interviews, the SD card, knock on wood, whatever, hasn't been corrupted in a long time. Before, that was a major thing with my phone. The SD card would always get corrupted, but it hasn't happened in a while. So you know what I have to do? I have to be grateful and thankful that it hasn't happened. And so I try to apply that to the rest of my life. So thank you guys. Notice good customer service. Be patient. Be compassionate with other people. Be compassionate with yourself specifically, most importantly. And we'll catch you guys in the next Watch and Talk. I definitely appreciate you guys' most valuable asset, which is your time. And thank you guys so much. Take care.